Before we get into today's episode, please consider supporting Pamela Nichols' cause for the MFR Cash for Kids Christmas fundraiser. Pam works relentlessly over a 6 to 7 week period, raising money, taking donations, whether it be cash, a bank transfer, or even like a second-hand gift that you might have. The cause aims to give every child in the area a Christmas present that might not receive one otherwise. To be able to donate, we have the details of the bank transfer on the screen if you want to donate a couple of quid that way. If you have a physical cash donation, you can put that in an envelope and send it to Grampian Property Centre. The same thing goes if you have a second-hand Christmas present, or maybe you've bought too many this year or bought the same thing for someone, drop it in at Grampian Property Centre. And if you want to do it via bank transfer, the details are on the screen right now. It's a really, really good cause. If you have a spare couple of quid, even a fiver, it all goes a long way to making sure everyone gets a good surprise on Christmas morning in the local area. So please support Pam. And anyway, on to today's episode.
Episode 7 is going to be Alan Main. Alan Main's a bit of a local legend in Moray when it comes to football. He's probably one of the most famous exports around here for football. Over 500 games in the top flight in Scotland. Played for Scotland under 21, Scotland B. Played for the great team of the Dundee United of the 1980s. Played for St Johnstone, was actually their record appearance holder for many years up until recently. On top of that, Alan also happens to be probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. It wasn't mentioned on the podcast, but after the podcast, Alan actually gifted me one of his match-worn Scotland tops and signed it for me. Just a kind of level of the guy, just shows it. Hope you enjoy the episode. Episode 7, Alan Main, welcome. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this. You are my first professional football player. How are you today?
I'm good, Lee. Thanks for offering me the opportunity to come along and have a chat. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But thanks.
Part of the reason I got you on, Alan, is because I'd seen you started coaching recently back in the local area. I'm a coach myself, so I'm interested to get into quite a few coaching questions later on. I normally have a routine football journals questions round. I normally ask you, for example, what do you think's the best kit ever made? Slightly different with yourself, so I've got questions kind of more tailored around yourself. I'm going to get straight in with the questions. I did give you a wee sneak peek of them before. Okay, question 1, Alan. How good of a player were you as a kid, and what age did you realise you had a bit of potential?
Well, how good a player was, we'll start off with, but I think that potentially I was okay outfield, but being the youngest of 3 brothers, I was the one that was going to go in the goals, you know. I was the smallest. So I think that a big part in that question to be answered as well, that I'd went to Elgin Boys. I was introduced to football early stages, maybe 11-year-old. And then I decided that goals was for me. Yeah. I enjoyed the fact that you were diving about, you were getting muddy, you know. And as you say, when any shot was coming in, if you do make a save, it's great save. That's what you were looking for. That's a high point for a goalkeeper, to make a good save. And as a young kid, it was always good to make a good save here and there. But yes, there was loads of mistakes, of course there was. But the highlight for me was making the saves, and the folk say, "Oh, well done, Alan. You were like a centre of attention, being in the goals, you know." So. Yeah, it was getting brought up as the youngest in a family of 4, but 2 older brothers. That's why I went in the goals. And then Elgin Boys was a big step for me to sort of end up focus on just being in goals.
Yeah. How were you kind of height-wise for a goalie at that age, Alan?
Yeah, I'm not the tallest anyway. I'm 5'11", so I was probably quite small, but ended up getting to probably about 14, 15 my height, 5'11", so that was kind of where I was going to be, and that was it. So, and I do feel as if I had quite a good spring to me. I could jump, I could run, I was quite quick, so that kind of helped me with anything kind of coming into the box with any real great height with it. So yeah, I wasn't the tallest and still am, but it just shows you can do it if you work hard. I think the big emphasis nowadays is work hard and you'll get all your rewards, I think.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. One thing I remember from your career, Alan, because I've been watching top flight football in Scotland since about 95, 96, was you could always kick the ball quite a distance. Your kicking was very strong. What kind of age did that start from?
Yeah, that probably started probably 14, 15 sort of age. I was quite comfortable with the ball at my feet. I was quite happy because, as I say, the upbringing was, yes, I was in goals, but I did play outfield as well at times. So I think that once I started getting stronger and a bit bigger physically, I could kick the ball quite well. Practice as well. I was always practicing. In them days, you could pick the ball up and decide what you were going to do with it. So generally, I was punting the ball, I was using it for my hands into an area. Now you're just, as I say, you're trying. Every time a goalkeeper takes, it's like a free kick, isn't it? He rolls it out, places it, and then he plays it off the ground. So
that's it.
Yeah. So no, and then once I got to Dundee United, it was a real push that I had to get stronger. I wasn't going to grow, so I had to get stronger physically. So once I got to Dundee United as well, and that's a massive step up. I didn't think it at the time, but Highland League to becoming full time at 19, there's a big step up there.
There is.
There's a lot of challenges. There's 4 or 5 goalkeepers there rather than maybe 1 or 2 at a Highland League club.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of challenges. So you have to be stronger. You have to be better. You have to work harder on things. So I generally did that. So as I say, I think that's probably came for a real good focus on getting stronger.
Great answer. So you obviously played in the Highland League as a teenager. I've watched Highland League games. I've watched Highland League games for many years. It's a brutal, tough league with big physical guys. How did you handle that as a teenager? Because you played for Lossy and Elgin in the Highland League.
Yeah, that's right. So Danny Fitzsimmons was actually his son Stuart was in the Elgin Boys Select, which we went to America. So I knew Stuart really well and knew Danny quite well as well because it's his dad. So he was a manager at Rothes. So I actually played for Rothes once. I think it was maybe 14, 15 age. So he's at that age. I'm probably 5'11". I'm no the biggest. I'm no the strongest, and he had sort of like a lot of faith in me. Yeah. So he's put me in there just because he thought I had the ability, not because of his presence, because it wasn't there yet. So then Danny became manager at Lossy, and he brought me in at Lossy. And same again, it was maybe the belief he had in me, not because I was physically big, but he believed that I could potentially have it to go and play. So, and it was a really good ground in that, isn't it? You're still a child really, and you're going into a man's world, and you have to sort of step up.
A lot of trust.
Yeah, a lot of trust. And I think, Danny was really, really good for me. He's passed away now, Danny, but he. Looking back, he probably was the one that gave me the real opportunity, to say, right, you're a goalkeeper, go and see what you can do, Yeah. I'm not sure if somebody my size at that right now would get that opportunity. I think more so now that goalkeepers need to be big, the big presence, 6'2", 6'3". But good that Danny gave that to me because, as I say, I stayed at Lossy for maybe a season and a half, 2 seasons, and then I progressed to Elgin. Yeah. Same league, but at the time as well, that was quite contentious because I'm a Lossy boy, I go to play for Elgin City, yes. But at the end of the day, that was the decision I made and I did it. And it was a really good grounding for me, to be honest with you. Really good grounding as a teenager.
Yeah. Before you kind of got to Dundee United, I've got here that you were on trial at Rangers, Motherwell and Aberdeen as well.
Yeah, so basically what it was so I was Elgin boys and we went and played against Motherwell, we played against Celtic boys, Rangers boys and things. So we had opportunities to play against these teams. So we went down to Motherwell. I'll never forget it. It was Jock Wallace was the manager and I played against Motherwell. I did quite well and I'm sure it was at Hamilton Training Horse Racecourse. Yep. So we were down there playing and I remember Jock Wallace, he was a big man, he came along and he went, right Chucht, are you going to sign for me? And I just kind of looked up at him and wasn't sure what to say, So it ended up that I said no to Motherwell based on the fact that it was a S form, so I couldn't play for school, couldn't play for the Elgin boys, it was just Motherwell I would have to play for.
Yeah.
And I do think a couple of players did, Steve McKidd or Stephen Kidd, and I think Gary Wood signed. But they went down, in holiday time and played, trained and whatnot. So yeah. I decided against that. So, and Jock Wallace was eventually went to Rangers, so I went on trial at Rangers. Peter McCloy, Jim Stewart was there, Nicky Walker was there, Andy Bruce was there. So a lot of goalkeepers at a massive club. So it was an eye opener. And then I spent I went down on 3 different occasions there. And I went to Belgium, played in a goalkeeping tournament.
Did you got goalkeeper of the tournament in this. Yeah.
I think we got beat by Inter Milan. It was a really high end sort of like Molenbeek it was. So I got the goalkeeper of the tournament, which was really good. Came back and then expecting maybe get an offer to sign for them, but Jock Wallace lost his job no long after that. So things changed, I suppose. But whether I was going to sign or not, I wasn't sure. So and then I went to Aberdeen in trial with Alex Ferguson, Archie Knox, and again Jim Leighton, Brian Gunn.
Yeah, I've got a little note of Jim Leighton and Brian Gunn. That's two Scotland internationals ahead of you at the time. Yes,
they were ahead of me. Well, and I was at Elgin, so I went in there. I mean, the ones that were my age was Scott Tate, Michael Watt, Stephen Beckett. So there was a big group of goalkeepers at Aberdeen at the time. So I spent a week there. I was playing for Elgin City. I spent a week on trial, and Sir Alex Ferguson said, decent goalkeeper, but just the same as what we've got. So probably if anybody's looking for a goalkeeper, I'll mention you. And then he spoke to Jim McLean, I believe, and then that was it. So I ended up signing for Dundee United 19. So
fantastic. Okay, question 3, Alan. What's the best defender you've had in your team, and the guy you could probably rely on the most?
That's pretty straightforward to me. And saying that, I've played with a number of good defenders, but David Neary would be the one. He was so cool, calm. You could pass the ball. You could score against Brazil, you know, what more do you want, you know? So I would say David Neary, but he wasn't as aggressive as some defenders I played. I mean, even Paul Hegarty was a great defender, and Paul wasn't that big either, and his timing in the air was brilliant. He would go, but he also talked you through the game. I'm not sure if I see as much as that now. You know, I don't know if I see that. Paul Hegarty was always reassuring, you know, always confident about how things was, you know, keeping you on your toes, and I think that's a great thing to, you know, and that was such a good thing when I went to Dundee United, because there was a number of players that did that. You know, they were not so much worried about, they were coaching you through games as well, which was important.
Yeah, good mate, thank you. Sorry. So my next question is, I'm going to kind of elaborate on, because doing the research, Alan, you've been a part of some fantastic teams. So my question is, how is it to be a teenager as part of the squad for the Dundee United team of the 80s that reached the UEFA Cup final? I've also got that you were on the bench against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and you were 1-0 down. They had been unbeaten since 1970 in Europe at home. You beat them at home. You were on the bench in the new camp against Barcelona as a teenager. A team led by Terry Venables that contained Gary Lineker and Mark Hughes. How's that for a teenager, somebody who's just moved from Elgin, to be experienced in the new camp within a few years?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's unbelievable, isn't it? To think that was going to happen, and that's just the beauty of playing in Europe, isn't it? You know, you'd never know who you're going to get. I mean, Dundee United were very successful without winning too many trophies, but they were successful as far as the teams they played against. So it was always good to be a part in Europe. So
you actually played, I've got here, you played 8 times in Europe for Dundee United.
Yeah, is that right? I'm not sure if I can work out ones. Vitesse Arnhem was one of them anyway. Was it Vitesse? I also played against a Belgian team. It'll come back to me. But no, the Barcelona thing was unbelievable, to be honest with you. That's just like, you're turning up there, you're training at the stadium, you know, the game itself was unbelievable. We ended up beating them. Yeah. You know, the crowd's reaction.
They were 1-0 down and 1-1 in the 86th minute, and then they won it in the 89th minute. Dundee United against Barcelona.
Well, that's quite interesting. So the dugouts at the time were sort of like down, and your eyes were just casting it right across the pitch. You were just an eye level of the pitch. So Paul Sturrock's got the ball in their sort of right back area. We're going through, we're beating them, we're going to win the game, and then I think Jim McLean shouting at Paul Sturrock, keep it in the corner, keep it in the corner. So Luggy dribbles past somebody, and Jim McLean gives it, gives it. I'm not going to repeat on the radio. He crosses it, and then John Clark scores the one that takes us right through. So you know, it's quite interesting and quite good to look back on that. I mean, Jim McLean saying, be defensive, keep the ball. We're in the last couple of minutes of the game, keep it. But Luggy, as they call him, skipped by the defender, crossed it, and we scored. Like, you know, and that's. it's kind of unbelievable to think that we'd done that against a team, and the size of the stadium, you know, the crowd's reaction, you know, the hankies were coming out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was very surreal for me because, as I say, a few years back before then, I'm not sure if it's years, but I mean, the time, you know, that long before that, I was at Elgin City.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself in it. So it's a bit of luck, to be honest with you, but also something that's always in the, you know, when I'm thinking about it and we're talking about it, it's a great experience to have.
Absolutely.
What is the atmosphere like there, Alan? Because on the TV, it seems like the crowd are right on top of you, and I guess like you being next to the field, it kind of looks like all the eyes are on you, right?
I know, but behind the goals at the time, they had sort of like there was a bit at the back like Hampden, and then there was like a big fence, and I believe beyond the fence it was like I'm sure it was like a moat type thing. So people couldn't. That was behind the goals. So at any time if the ball went over there, they had to obviously get a new fresh one on. I mean it's multi-ball now, but at that time I'm sure a few balls went over it, so they would have to. So I didn't feel as if they were really on top of me at the time. And I mean, how long ago was that? It's about.
1987.
87, yeah. So I signed I think I signed 86.
Yep.
So it was only a year. So I didn't feel as if we were I was probably just like a spectator there, wasn't I? You know, I just turned up. I mean, I've got my strip on, and then I'm just sitting watching in awe with this game. And it was, as I say, it's probably went over, blink of an eye, it's finished, the game. You know?
Would you have been nervous if they'd had to make a substitution to get onto that game, Alan, or would you have kind of taken that in your stride?
Yeah, I mean, I was always told nerves is good for you. You know, it's good to have a certain level of nerves, and then once you're on the pitch, and I always did feel that way. I didn't feel, I mean, nerves were maybe the build up to get into the stadium. If you knew you were playing, you were getting to the stadium, you get there, you go out to the pitch, you get back, and you get the team's named, you get changed, you get onto the pitch, and that's it. Your nerves are starting to release, it's starting to go, because you're getting ready and you get focused. So yeah, no, I would have said probably would have had nerves, but once you get into it, you just have to, you have to settle into it, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm whether it's fortunate or not, I've not really had to come off the bench many times and play, which is as a goalkeeper it could be slightly different. I don't know. Your first touch is really important, isn't it? The ball.
First touch, and I think it's also important how the previous goalkeeper's done the last maybe 60 minutes or whatever he's been on for. If he's had a blinder and you come on and your first touch is off, it gets the crowd on your back.
Yeah,
and
of course
things,
it does.
you know?
Yeah. So I think you have to adapt. I mean, certainly there would be nerves. You're playing against Barcelona, and certainly you would like to think that you would have just settled into the game.
Yeah. Okay. Who's been the biggest influence in your career? I'm going to two-part it. So player and coach.
I would have said that going to Dundee United, Billy Thompson would have been probably somebody who probably didn't realise he was a big influence, but he was, you know, because as I say, at the time we didn't have a goalkeeping coach, and Billy was
big character.
Yes, and I actually thought, and worked with Billy, I thought Billy probably could have been a Scotland #1. He was that good, you know. He was 6'3", 6'4". He could kick with the left and right foot. He was sort of very, very good goalkeeper. You know, what was it? Maybe Jim Leighton was there at the time. I don't know. Andy Gorham. But I still think he could have been a #1. But so he was a big influence because he was #1. So we were looking up at him. That was a standard we need to get to. But also he needs to generally take most of the training as well.
Okay.
And that's a hard thing to do, because I do think that's why coaching now, as far as a goalkeeping coach, is important, that the goalkeeper can come to the coach and say to him, you know, I need a wee bit more. You know, I think I'm training too much. You know, where Billy was doing it all. Who was looking after Billy?
This is it.
Just himself. He was only looking after himself. So, and then he was looking after 3 or 4 younger goalkeepers. So I do think it's important, if we did have a goalkeeping coach, that we took the pressure off of Billy and he could have just turned up. And I think it might have helped him having a coach, and he probably would have played for Scotland a lot more. I feel anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have said Billy was a big part as far as a player, and he did coach me as well. So as a coach, I think Jim McLean was, I would have said, a good coach, but not a good man manager.
Yes.
So he taught you, you know, to be respectful of your teammates, to respect the opposition, to work hard to get where you needed to get to. So on that basis, I would have said him as well. But
is he quite as terrifying as his reputation has given him?
Yeah, I mean, he was really hard taskmaster. You know, we were down there. We were not on a lot of money. We went down there. We're not on a lot of money, and we always had to work hard for what we got. Like every bonus was bonus incentive of every game. It was a good bonus, but you had to win the game, you know. And Dundee United, yeah, they were successful, but they weren't winning every game, sort of thing. So it was very based on that. So if you would probably feel as you would be trying harder because you had to win the game, because there was money at the end of the rainbows type thing. But yeah, but with everything, first thing in the morning, turning lights off, make sure that all the lights are off, make sure the doors are shut, just everything he would pick up and everything. He'd a great mind on him, great coach, but I would have said man management failed several times with how to deal with players. And he probably wouldn't have existed in a manager's role now, I don't think, because of how he acted. Yeah, for his coaching, he definitely would have, but for how he acted as a person, it was far too strict at times. You know, I mean, I can remember playing a game, and I think I kicked the ball at the park twice. I think I've saved a penalty. We had a clean sheet, and I came in and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to get any stick here. But I did. I got stick for the two kicks, the two bad kicks at the park.
Wow.
You know, so that's how for detail. And he just went round. He started at the goalkeeper. He went right through the whole team that played. He went through the subs that came on, got it. The subs that didn't get on got it, and also the players that didn't even were in the squad but didn't get in a strip, they got it as well. So there you go. He absolutely gave everybody a blast, and it didn't matter who you were, and that was it. You know, and I think Alex Ferguson had a similar sort of fiery side to him as well. You know, so that was the nature of the beast at the time, and we just got on with it. I think after 45 minutes, you come in, and whether you've had a good game or a bad game, you shouldn't be destroyed. You've still got 45 minutes to go and play, and it should be a case of picking you up if you've made mistakes, and if you're playing well, just keep it going. That's from my point of view, and I think that that was maybe something that we never ever really got.
I think it's like a case of being pragmatic, really. There's a time and a place for it, right? Maybe there was just a one-way approach with Jim.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. As I say, he came in at half time, and if you'd made mistakes, he's telling you, you know, he's uncertain terms, he's giving it to you, and that's it. He did it to everybody. And he didn't have the foresight to see that could affect you and make you worse. You were going out for another. He thought that being destructive was the way to make you better. And I responded to that. I'm not going to lie. I responded to the fact that you were going to get stick, and then you were, I'll try better, or you know, try not to make mistakes. But we all make mistakes.
Did you see players who didn't respond to that and maybe crumble through the pressure?
Yeah, crumbled and then retaliated, and then okay, you're going to get you're not going to play in the second half. That's how it was, you know. And times in dressing rooms before games, things have happened. I've seen that he was on the team sheet and he's not on the team sheet now. He would change a team. If he didn't feel as if somebody was right, he would just do it for whatever reason. Turning up 5 minutes late, you were out the team.
Wow.
You know, you had to be in time on the bus. You know, you had to be and which is, I think, it's a valuable lesson. Being early is a good thing. You know,
absolutely.
I try and be early all the time. So so I think that's a valuable lesson, to be on time and be ready.
It stands you well.
It does. Yeah, so
absolutely.
But overall, it was my time at Dundee United. It was a great experience with the teams we played against, the players I played with. But it probably could have been better if it was managed better, I would have said as well.
Okay. We kind of spoke a little bit just before we came on about kind of modern game goalkeepers, how you almost have to be a sweeper. Would you have made it in today's game, Alan?
I think I probably would have made it. I'm not sure if I would have been in the prime, just based on my height.
Yeah, I
think my height would have probably been a slight problem. Even though, you know, we had Andy Gorham at the time was my height. I'm sure Peter Shilton wasn't that big.
You've got players like Jordan Pickford these days. He's not the tallest of guys.
Yeah. So I do think now, reading of the game, positional sense of the game, you know, when you're receiving a pass, your first touch is so important. Absolutely. And then your final pass. The goalkeepers, I mean, I can remember when the pass back came in, and my instruction was, if it comes back to you and if you're in any doubt, just hit it first time, and I could hit it. Hit it as far as you could go. Now, I think in my career I've maybe made 2 mistakes from hitting it that hard. It went along the ground, the strikers got it and came round and scored past me. Yeah. So that was my understanding. If it comes back to you, Alan, and if you're any danger or any thought that you're going to lose it, just hit it first time. So then the striker's thinking he's just going to hit it first time, he's going to fit it, and then I'm saying, okay, I can take a touch then, it'll give me a wee bit more time to work it. So we kind of had worked it out that way. That's how we were going to do it. If any doubt, first time. If you got a bit of time, take a touch and find a pass. Right. Now, I think at the time, I'm not sure if the defenders really reacted to that Nowadays, defenders
They're
are
all
dropping
over
off, centre backs going in, or actually going a wee bit deeper, or staying up the park. The defenders of that time, when you took a touch, they just maybe stood. So
Yeah.
at times you could get caught. But I think I could have probably played with the ball at my feet. I think the only thing downside maybe would have been my height. That's all. But I think I could have. I think I would have made a decent living out of it.
Just kind of further question from your kicking, Alan. Have you ever came close to scoring from kicking?
There was a game at Tannadice, and I don't know if you've been at Tannadice, but we call it kicking up the hill, up the way. And it was actually against Hibs, and Andy Gorham was in the goal. And the fullback was not the Aberdeen Willie Miller, but the Hibs Willie Miller. I don't know if you remember him, but I think it was the last 2-3 minutes of the game, and I've absolutely punted it up, and he's kind of gone back the way, and on his left foot, and he's hit it, and it's hit his foot and went over Andy Gorham and into the net. So he won 1-0. So, and then I think Duncan Ferguson scored. I think at Partick Thistle, I just punted it long and it bounced. Craig Nelson was coming out and Big Dunk headed it over the top of him. So never actually scored, but I've set up a couple.
Good. If it wasn't for your back injury in the 90s, because you were out for a season with a back injury, do you think you could have been a mainstay in the Scotland team? Because you were in them squads and you were ready to make your debut for Scotland. Was it against Malta?
Yeah, that's correct.
And your back injury pulled you out, and that was you for the next year.
Yeah, that was quite a disappointment, because I had a back problem. There was a problem in my lower spine, and we were just trying to manage it. At club, we were managing it. I wasn't training every day. There was always the chance I was going to need an operation on it, but we were trying to see me through the season. So when I went down, I think I'm sure Andy Gorham pulled out, and maybe Jim Layton or Brian Gunn. There was a couple of pull-outs, and I was left out. So I ended up training, and I would say I trained too hard. I was on my own, and it was...
Okay.
There's no two ways about it. When you go away international, or any time as a goalkeeper, it's hard work. It's hard going. And I just felt that I was maybe pushed too far there because they knew about it. And ultimately, I had to go and get an operation pretty much straight after that. So that took the chance away to play. But I also sat on the bench. I mean, I sat on the bench against Germany, which was West Germany, at Ibrox, and Nicky Walker played. And I think there was maybe an opportunity for me to play there as well. I could have maybe got a half as well. Yeah. I'm not saying that the managers made a mistake by not playing me, but me as a player, I would have liked to have played for my country, obviously. Absolutely. I mean, I managed to do it. I mean, my career internationally is under-20 World Cup in Chile. I played all the games, under-21 games, one being international where I came off the bench and played, and I had been on several, quite a lot of squads for the national team, and sat on the bench twice, both against Germany. So there was maybe opportunities, yes, for me. If the back injury didn't come, I probably would have had a Scotland cap right now. But injuries are part of the game, so I have to accept that.
Absolutely. It kind of takes us on to your memorabilia. You've taken a Scotland top with you. Is this from your under-21s?
This would be the under-20s. So I played in the World Cup in Chile. So that's just a strip I took along.
That's fantastic.
So that's a fair age of strip. I mean, the old Scotland Umbro strip. So, I mean, I've still got quite a few of these strips knocking about, and I have got a couple of decent strips that I've swapped out with. But obviously, we actually didn't get caps for under-20, under-21 at the time. It was only a full national. You had to be a full international before you got one. So, unfortunately, I've not got the cap, but I've got the jersey I wore anyway.
It's great. I do always like to see the old kind of kits. You know, I'm a big fan of 80s and 90s kits. I'm all over them. To me, a Scotland kit, a goalkeeper's kit, to me, for Scotland always has to have blue and yellow in it. It's just, when I think back to a Scotland goalkeeper, it's blue and yellow. So it's great to see this. But at the time, the under-20s, I was kind of looking, there's some absolute talent in that under-20s squad.
Good players.
Yeah, really good players. I don't think I read too much down about them, but at the time, under-20s, under-21s, you're talking Euro 92, Euro 96, Italia 90 kind of time. Do you think through the injury you could have possibly maybe played in a World Cup?
I think I mean could have gotten to a squad. I could have gotten to a squad to be a part of it. You know, I think generally most of the time when I went away, I was seen as the third choice.
Yeah,
you know, and the third choice at that in them days you were in the stand. Nowadays, I think you've got two goalkeepers.
You do.
Yeah, so it was always me in the stand, and then we brought in four. So sometimes it was the likes of there was Neil Sullivan was number one, Jonathan Gould, me, and Rob Douglas might have been there when he was at Dundee. So I roomed with Big Rab. So so that was probably the best four goalkeepers generally up in Scotland at the time. And Neil was playing for, I think, Tottenham or Wimbledon as well at the time. I thought he was a cracking goalkeeper. I really liked Neil. I thought he was a big unit of a guy. Big Rab's a big unit. Jonathan Gould's maybe my height. So no, I think there was opportunities to get in there, but I mean, there's also players as well playing at good level, and they were decent. I mean, Jim Leighton was a really good goalkeeper right up till 40s, I think. You know, he played on till his 40s. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I think the pass back was a problem at one stage, but I think he conquered it. I think he ended up getting the better of it, and I think he was at Dundee, had a hard time, and then went down to Hibs, got back into the Scotland squad, you know. So well done to him. But I thought, me personally, Andy Gorham was the one I seen as the best goalkeeper I trained with and watched. And he kind of looked after me as well, so I'm always going to favour him, you know.
We've had a few mentions of Gorham on here before. I've actually had a pint with Andy, and a really nice guy as well.
Yeah,
just
good guy,
down to earth guy. Who's the best striker you've faced in your career?
Best striker I've faced, probably David Trezeguet. Played against Monaco, so he scored by me, but he's probably not the only striker that scored by me. Played against quite a few. I mean,
could I give you just a couple of names, and you could maybe give me opinions? Ali McCoist.
Ali McCoist was really interesting for me, because when I did go down to Ibrox or Rangers to train, he tended either to drop me off or maybe pick me up from time to time. He was going past where I was staying. So we ended up having a relationship as far as we were training together. I was a boy for Lossie. And then ended up in Scotland squads with him. He had a link with St Johnstone. I was at St Johnstone. And then I eventually ended up coaching with him. I was first team goalkeeping coach at Rangers when Jim Stewart had a knee operation. Then I went back into the youth. So I had quite a good relationship with Ali, and I always thought he was very competitive, very cheeky, very clever, you know. So, and the thing is as well, I saved a penalty against him as well at Ibrox. We won 2-1, and yeah, I was quite pleased with that.
That would be Henrik Larsson.
Henrik Larsson, what a player he was. I thought he was one of the best, if not the best as well. He was way up there. I was in Spain with St Johnstone at the time. I'm not sure if he was with Sweden or he was with Celtic, and I was in a hotel and I was walking along to my room, and it was a long corridor. I was on my own, I was just walking along, and I seen a figure coming towards me. He's getting closer and closer. We just got eye contact. I said hello, and he went, "All right, big man." It was Henrik Larsson. I said, "How you doing?" He had his dreadlocks had gone at the time, so yeah. So no, really brilliant. What a finisher. And he seemed a nice guy. That any time I'd spoke to him briefly or something like that, he was very, very nice.
Brian Laudrup,
what a player, you know. I can remember Bromby came to Tannadice. Brian and Michael played, I think.
Wow.
Peter Schmeichel was in the goals, and
that's some team, Ryan.
Schmeichel's caught the ball in about 6 yards, and he just threw it over David Nary's head, who was in his own half, and I'm sure it was Michael or Brian run through and scored for Bromby. So yeah, what a player, what an ability, you know. The Celtic and the Rangers team back then was unbelievable with the players that was in it, you know. It was unbelievable. You know, there was a lot of English players in it at one time at the Rangers, so some international massive players. Absolutely. Then Celtic were Moravceks or Larssons, you know, unbelievable players, and they were just quality players, isn't it?
I'm going to ask you one more. Probably one of my favourite players that's a non kind of Celtic Rangers, John Robertson.
John Robert, he could score a goal. He was a goal scorer. He was just a goal scoring machine, you know. He wasn't big. He was always in the right place at the right time. You know, great character as well. And he must be high up in the Hearts scoring. You know, I
think he is. Very high.
I mean, he was in an international squad with me as well. So yeah, really good player. Liked the ball on his feet, getting it wide and getting into the box and scoring goals. He was one of these so-called poachers, you know. I don't think he was always going to run away for you, but he would always get himself in the right position to score.
A little bit of fox in the box.
Definitely, yeah.
So as you can see, I'm wearing a Celtic top today, Alan. I'll always put this podcast back to Celtic, so I've only got one question about Celtic. In 2004, before I think it's before you signed for Livingston or before you signed for Gretton, I can't remember. Celtic were reportedly interested in signing you at the time. Is there any truth in that rumour?
Yeah, so we had I was at Livingston, and at the time I'm sure Livingston were going through financial issues. I think I had about a year and a half left of my contract, and we had just played against Celtic, and we had basically been told that we had maybe 2 weeks to decide whether you wanted to sign. Now the situation was some players got freed, some players had to get reduced their salary, and some players kept the salary they were on. So I was one that was got a reduced salary, but they wanted to keep me. So I had to make a decision to take the reduced salary or leave. But Celtic got in touch with me, and just probably too late. Yeah. And I would have probably been a third choice goalkeeper there. I was going. I mean, I was probably.
I've got the names here. You had Headman, Douglas, Broto, and Marshall there.
Yeah. So I think there was a couple. I think Broto at the time. I think Broto was just leaving. Headman. Because it was, I'm sure Rob Douglas.
Headman had a lot of injuries.
Was it? Yeah, okay. So I was. They asked me would I be interested, and I said of course I'd be interested, but I had to make a decision, and I made the decision purely based on I never really heard back for Celtic. They were just in. I think Martin O'Neill was the manager at the time. I do believe, unfortunately, I think his wife was. She wasn't too well at the time, so I think I had a really short period of time to think about it, and I accepted the contract for Livingston and never really heard back from Celtic, to be honest with you. So there was a mention of it.
You didn't do too bad at Livingston, though, did you, Alan?
No, I worked okay actually.
Okay. I've just got a couple more, and then I'm just going to run through your career a little bit, Alan. Coaching or playing, what do you prefer?
I would play all day.
Yeah.
And I had a similar sort of situation as Billy, because most of the times, when I got to St Johnstone, we didn't initially have a goalkeeping coach, so you were doing the coaching, and then we brought a couple of coaches in, and it took the sort of weight off me, and then I ended up. When he wasn't there, he was part-time based, I would take the training. So I was always kind of coaching in a way. And then when I'd moved to Gretna, I went down to Gretna as a goalkeeping coach. I had a neck injury, so I looked as if I was going to retire. So I was ultimately doing my badges then.
Yeah.
So that would have probably been 2000 I think my coaching badges was 2006. One of them I can vaguely remember. But so I went down to Gretna as a coach, and then I got myself fit and started playing again. And then I got a job in at Rangers coaching. Mm-hmm. So I was playing and coaching. And I played till I was 42. And so probably about 5-6 years before I retired, I was coaching and playing.
Yep.
And then I was fortunate to go into, it wasn't a full-time role at Rangers, but it was. I didn't have a full-time contract, but I was full-time hours. So I always playing would always come before coaching, but to be coaching some of the people I've coached and to look now where they are, I'm really pleased.
Yep.
So there's satisfaction on both sides, but obviously playing would be the one for me.
Absolutely. When you were at Rangers, you were coaching Alan McGregor and Neil Alexander.
Yeah, so I mean, my coaching in there, I was basically a youth coach, head of youth goalkeeping. So my goalkeepers at the time was Liam Kelly, Motherwell, in Scotland, Robbie McCrory, Rangers in Scotland. Xander Clark was there for a short period of time, and then he came to St Johnstone, who I coached. He's in the national team. I coached for 3 months with the first team, which was Alan McGregor, Neil Alexander, somebody Gallagher, I can't remember his first name. So
future's looking bright for Murray's goalkeepers, that's all I can say.
Yeah, so I'd been at a decent level with it, and I do think as well some of the goalkeepers made it easy for you because they were. I mean, Alan McGregor for me, and Alan's know that. I was expecting Alan McGregor to be 6, massive. He's not that tall,
yeah.
But he looks big in the goals, and he's in an amazing career. And he's played at a really high level. Craig Gordon, high level, even at an older age, that age, that's it.
Still playing now as well.
Yeah, still playing. I mean, credit to them. It's an unbelievable thing to be able to do that. So, yeah, and Kieran, he's a goalkeeper as well. Kieran Wright's at Rangers as well. So he's a young kid. So he's got a professional contract. Ross Doohan, who's second choice goalkeeper at Aberdeen, he was there. So there's a big nucleus of goalkeepers I've worked with.
Yep.
In there, and I've probably developed them into a part of what they are now. Because the other coaches have installed other things into them as well. So no, there's a lot of good names in there, and the most important thing is for me is right now in the business of coaching is the kids must enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I do think there's more pressure on kids now. I do think maybe from parents. I mean, my mum and dad weren't a pushy to me. I just went and go and play, and I just loved football. So I just went and played.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be professional, but I don't know nowadays. And I started really being serious probably 11, 12-year-old in the goals. But now you've got kids at 5 and 6 doing it.
Yes.
You know, and they've got all the gear, you know, and the gloves and everything. I mean, I never had any of that. You know, I never had anything. And it's good. It's good. I mean, I'm a part of that now. I've got young ones as a 6-year-old. I'm trying to coach to be a goalkeeper. So, no, it's good. It's good that you've had the playing career and you've also got a decent enough coaching career as well. And then the experience, I can maybe produce one or two.
Pass that on. Yeah, it's all about that. What's the key to being a good coach, Alan?
I think it is the key to be a good coach is trying to nurture and develop. You know, you're trying to develop skills into kids.
Yeah.
And I think as well that one of the most difficult things that I think is to get them focused on where it needs to be,
where it's going.
Where it's going, and focus on it. You know, there's so many outside things now that I never ever had. You know, mobile phones. Everybody's got a mobile phone.
Yes.
You know,
true.
the computers, the indoor things. As far as you just sitting doing nothing, I think that, I mean, my kids were guilty of that as well. But I think going out and running about and having a kick of the ball and getting the enjoyment from that is far, far better.
Yeah.
Fresh air. And then I think as well that the camaraderie between goalkeepers is very good. When I'm seeing goalkeepers, I've got 4 or 5 goalkeepers and they're all mixing and mingling and they're all diving, and I think it's a great thing.
I do.
So enjoyment has to be there. Seeing the kids develop, seeing the ones that you can push harder, you know, that I think that's a number of it's like a teaching role.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll be honest with you, I want to be better as a coach, but it's more important that the kids get better as goalkeepers, because I've had my day, but I just want to coach and make it better for them.
Yeah.
So that's why I try and do it. I want them to enjoy it. I enjoy it. I get a buzz from it, and I hope I don't have to shout at them too loud.
Okay, my last question, Alan. Sorry, I've got a question at the end I ask everyone. But my last question for these set of questions: what's your proudest achievement in football?
I think my proudest achievement is probably signing for Dundee United at the beginning. Obviously playing in cup finals, even though I've not got many winners' medals, but I have played in them. I've been there. You know, obviously getting my first call up to Scotland. I can remember it. Well, I can't remember the team, but I can remember getting the call. Mixing with all these people, you know, mixing with, you know, Davy Cooper, you know, Ali McCoist, Maurice Johnstone, you know, Andy Gorham, Jim Layton, Alex McLeish, you know, Willie Miller. There's a lot of good quality players that are there.
Absolutely.
But they're big parts of my, you know, of my career, you know, and I can't forget about them.
No.
But as I say, the enjoyment of playing in a cup final is great. Disappointment as well there, but you know, there's been a number of things like that, you know. But signing my first pro contract, you know, playing till I was 42, was quite an achievement as well. I could have played more, but I think my injuries were long-term injuries I had. So you know, but no, I look back and reflect, and it's been a really good career.
Yeah, nothing you would change.
No, I mean, I had an opportunity to stay at Dundee United rather than leave and go to St Johnstone, but I think it was right at the time. There was a change in management at the time, and he probably didn't fancy me as a goalkeeper, and I understood that quite early, and I asked for a transfer and I moved on. But Jim McLean was the chairman. He wanted me to stay, and I was like, I really need to think of myself now, and I moved to St Johnstone, and I would have said that was a good move for me.
You're thought of very highly down at St Johnstone.
And I think as well the record and what we did, you know, there as well. I think we were third or fourth for a couple of seasons. We played in Europe. Yes, we never won a lot, but you know, we were a successful team.
Hard team to play against. Always remember that, St John. A hard team to play against. Okay, Alan. I'm just going to run a little bit through your career, because I'm hoping quite a lot of people, younger guys, are going to watch this and they maybe not know a little bit about your career. So if there's any of these that are mistaken facts, please do point me out. So started at Elgin Boys Club, went to Lossy to Elgin, then on to Dundee United, 187 games for Dundee United.
Yeah.
Then on to St Johnstone, 361 games for St Johnstone, 308 in the league.
Wow.
You held the club record up until 2 years ago for the league appearances for St Johnstone in the top flight. It was broken by Stephen Anderson.
He was rubbish as well.
You went to Livingston after that, a team that was, I looked up the team last night, it's full of good players. You got Robert Snodgrass in there. A lot of players who wouldn't have really worked at any other club, but they just kind of fitted in at Livingston and it worked.
Yeah, that was a real that was a real strange club to go to. You know, it was actually like playing in a foreign club. That many foreign players there. That yes, there was foreign players in my career, but it was more dominant. British players or Scottish players were in it. But there was a lot of players coming from, you know, South America, Spain. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most famous one was Guillermo Amor. I think he played for Barcelona for 10 years. What a player he was. But yeah, loads and loads of Marvin Andrews was there. I'm just trying to remember them all, but a lot of foreign players. So you were maybe 3 or 4 Scottish players. The rest was South American, Spanish. You know, so it was a strange place as far as that was concerned, but a lot of really nice people. A lot of nice people.
Yeah. Back to Gretna. And you kind of went through the divisions with Gretna.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so I'd left Livingston due to the administration with regards to my contract, and I ended up going to Gretna, and I just had a disc taken out my neck, so it was looking as if I was going to retire. And I ended up getting myself fit and I think I played in maybe the second division, the first division. Then my contract was coming up and decided to move back up to Perth because I'd moved down into that area. So I'd moved back to Perth based on my kids were really missing Perth, and Josh, he was going to go into primary 7. So we were moved back up to Perth. He went to primary 7, then he'd be going to first year, so he had friends rather than wait another year. So, no. So that was an experience and a half as well, but something that was never ever really going to work based on the amount of fans that was there. It was a very, very small place. But hey, what a dream that is to get to the cup final and just not quite make it, but we had a chance, didn't we? I think David Graham had a great chance. He rounded the keeper, and he but anyway, but you know, that would have been great to have won that for Gretna, but it was not to be. Yeah,
against a really, really good Hearts side as well that challenged for the SPL that year.
I think I could have got sent off that day as well in the second half. I think Rudy Scatchall, I think he'd knocked it past me. I just stood and later on I went to a coaching seminar or a goalkeeping, and they said that was highlighted, and they said, "What do you think?" And somebody's like, "Nah, it was no, you shouldn't have." But the referee, it was there taking it, said, "No, I would have sent you off." So, well, there you go. But no, that was a great experience.
And then you kind of ended up at St Johnstone. You had a few little spells here and there. Coach at Rangers, Dunfermline and Forest Mechanics.
Yeah, so I went to that's what it is. I went to Rangers, and then I actually came up to back up home, and then I did a wee bit at Forest, and then I had to go back down to Perth, and then I ended up being in Dunfermline not that long ago. But that was another one. It was just didn't fit for me. I just feel that in a club, everybody's got to be on the same page. I want from the manager right down to the tea lady, everybody on the same page. We all looking for the same thing, and I just didn't think there was. Some people were doing that there, and I just didn't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of walked away for a full-time job, which was last September or so. And I just didn't feel right about it. I just thought there was something not quite right there for me, and I was kind of just massive big club. Probably could get to the Premier League at some stage, but I don't think it's going to be this season. And I do think there's going to be needs to be changes. I think, and that's how I feel. And I just felt that I wasn't a big enough person in there to change anything. So I took myself out of it. So I just didn't enjoy it. The last couple of months, I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. Scottish League Cup winner 2004. You're Scottish Cup runner-up. You're a UEFA Cup runner-up.
Yeah.
Do you still have these medals?
Yeah, they're somewhere. Yeah, the medals are there. They're lying about. But I do think that the medals, it's, you know, when you finish your career and you look back and was it 550 games in total or whatever it may be, and I've got it's great to be a part of it, but it would have been great if there was a couple there that were winners, obviously. But unfortunately, it's no, and I can't change that.
You get 3 First Division winners medals on top of that.
Yeah, we that's what I'm saying. So we won the First Division with St Johnstone. So I think that was, they were winning anything is important,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's good. I think they're in a cupboard somewhere.
Testimonial at St Johnstone versus Man United.
Yeah, well, the story behind that as well was Man United were coming up to play Dunfermline, and the committee I'd left St Johnstone by the time at my testimonial, so it was a kind of funny thing. So they were getting my testimonial up and ready, and I'd actually broke my thumb. So my contract expired and I was out. I didn't have a club, and I was just, I'm sure that the testimonial game against Man United was against a young team. It was a young, I'm not sure, did Ben Johnstone play?
The only person I've got down there is Jesse Lingard played.
Yeah, Lingard played, that's right. And the goalkeeper, I can remember, because I played for Man United for the first 10 minutes.
Yep.
Or 5 minutes. And then I was on the bench because my thumb, and my son, Nicholas, he scored a penalty against Man United when we got a penalty. They were wanting me to take it, but nah, Nick, on you go. And so he scored the penalty.
That's fantastic. Okay, you saved a penalty on your debut for Dundee United. They actually had 2 penalties in that game. Just going by my research, one went off the post as well.
Well, this is what happened. So the first game was Forfar against Dundee United at Tannadice. It was Dundee United against Forfar. We were away at Rangers, the reserves. So then in them days, it was just one goalkeeper. Billy was playing for the first team. I was a reserve team goalkeeper. I was away at Ibrox playing against Rangers. So we were in the minibus coming up the road, and it said that Billy went over his ankle and he's in a bad way. And they had to strap him up. But anyway, he got through the game. Forfar's winning 1-0 up to the last kick of the ball, and Dundee United get a penalty, and Ian Ferguson, the ex-Rangers striker who played for, he scored. So Billy was struggling, he tore his ligaments or whatever, and I got the call I was playing against in the replay. So penalty, I think it was Craig Bruce that it took, and it went to my left side, and I've saved it with my right hand, and it hit the post and it goes out and wide the full-back area, the left back. And then it gets crossed back in, and somebody headers it, and Jim McInally handles it on the line and pushes it by the post. So I think Craig Brewster takes the second one. I dive to my right, it goes to my right, and it goes by the post. Wow. So it's a dream debut for me.
Absolutely.
And then we went on and won 2 or 3-0, I think.
Yeah.
So that was my debut, and I'd only been there several months. I hadn't been there a long time. So that was great to see any goalkeeper saving a penalty any time in your debut. So I think that's why I was a kind of favourite, you know. At Tannadice with the fans. So no, it was a really good start.
You got 5. I'm just checking time, Ryan.
Yeah, we're good on time, mate. 50 minutes in.
Perfect. You got 542 senior league appearances in Scotland. Now, I looked up some names last night. Would you like to know some names you've got more appearances?
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's you've actually got more top flight appearances than Billy Dodds, Tommy Burns, Ali McCoist, Paul McStay, and Paul Lambert.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
That's a good group of names, especially when, to me, Paul McStay was Mr. Consistent for Celtic throughout the 80s and 90s. Yeah. And you've actually got more top flight appearances, which I think is
that's nice to know.
Absolutely unreal. I'm going to run once before we get on to your 11, Alan. I want to speak a little bit about your coaching.
Yeah.
So you've started recently in the local area. You started up your own coaching website.
Yeah, so I've got a website. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and I'm basically just came back up in the area and thinking that I never got coached until I was like 10 years into a professional contract. So I think it's important that because I've got a bit of experience in it, I should be giving it to some kids here, or most of the kids that want to come along and get involved with it. Because you might, even if you pick up 1 or 2 things, you're still picking up some things, you know.
I agree.
And I mean, I think currently right now, you know, from the, I mean, I do a 1-to-1 session on a Saturday and a Sunday, and then I'll do like a group sessions on a Friday up at Elgin High School. And then I'll do individual sort of teams, you know, Moray Girls. I've got Moray Girls. So yeah, I'm sort of like working through a wide range of abilities and wide range. I mean, girls and boys. So it's really good from my point of view to see the talent that's up here, and hopefully I can, as I say, that it's the name of the website is it's main goalkeepers developing goalkeepers here. We're wanting to try and develop it, not just skills but mental health as well, because I think it's important.
I agree. Yeah.
From my upbringing, as far as a goalkeeper, it was every mistake you made was you were basically hammered on it, and I don't believe a goalkeeper should go through games like that or training like that. No. Training is to get better, to develop, and yes, we'll make mistakes, but that's where to make mistakes. So when you go into a game environment, you've got all the tools there not to make mistakes. You'll still make mistakes, but it's learning from mistakes as well. So after games or on a Monday morning, we would maybe analyse the game, and it was the coach that was analysing my game, not a goalkeeping coach. And I think it's important to be able to go to somebody like a coach and say, well, Alan, what did I go wrong? I've maybe experienced that in my career, so you've got information to give them. It's going to be invaluable for them.
Aye.
And you're supporting them there as well. As I do think support is a major thing as a goalkeeper. I do. I watch it a lot. They're just any mistake. I've been watching, and there's it's actually now down here. It was down in Dundee. A goalkeeper's in the goals. It comes for the left back into his feet. He passes it to the right back. It's not a good pass, but it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
It gets intercepted by the striker and it scores. He gets subbed. He is doing the right thing. It's come for the left. He's playing it out to the right. It just didn't execute the pass. That should never ever be a substitution.
No,
he's did the right thing. He just didn't have a good pass. So he's actually doing the right thing, but he's not executed as well as he could have. So I do think a goalkeeping coach there would have been ideal to say, oh, unlucky Alan, or whatever his name was. Yeah, keep your head up. You're doing the right thing, but he got punished for it. I just don't like seeing that.
No,
it's not
wrong.
right.
I think it's the most scrutinised position in the sport.
Yeah, because I think ultimately, I mean, strikers as well, open goal, but ultimately when you lose a goal, it's the goalkeeper, you can see it,
Yeah.
And I've told everybody I'm working with, if you make a mistake, just get your head back up. Don't beat yourself up about it, because there's other people at the side maybe be shouting at you.
Yes.
And as soon as you show a weekness, you're easy then, aren't you? So I've been telling them, just accept it. Get the ball at the net or whatever it was, the mistake, and get on with it. And there's more minutes in the clock, far more minutes in the clock, and you're developing, you're learning. You're going to make mistakes. It's one of these things.
It creates almost that mental fortitude.
Yeah,
you can keep going, because it gets better. It does get better.
Of course, it does.
Everyone's got a starting level. Everyone has to start somewhere to get to that. Not everyone's got the natural ability. Some people have got the natural ability. They maybe don't have to work as hard as it, but everyone has to work at it.
Yes, of course. Yes. You're different levels, so it's all different levels to everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I really do think a goalkeeper now needs to be what? You need to kick with your left foot, your right foot, you need to clip it, you need to strike it, you need to kick it long, kick it short. There you go. And then you've still got to handle it, diving saves, routine saves, crosses. Yep. There's so many things that is added onto the goalkeeper now, but it's good as well. It's. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We've got to learn these things. It's good to be able to pass with your left and your right foot.
Yep.
It's good to be able to have a short pass, long pass, clip it. That's all the things you should have if you're a professional. And
I agree.
If you can work on that now, you will be a better player in the future.
Fantastic. So you heard it here. What is your website, Alan?
So it's Main Goalkeeping.
Okay. And you're on Facebook and Instagram as well?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram, yeah. So
we're actually going to run a little giveaway with this podcast. Leading up to it, we're going to get a pair of gloves for Alan to sign. I've got a little Football Journals mug, and we've got a box of Christmas chocolates, because this will be out just before Christmas time. If you're listening, the way to do this is, all you have to do is you go on Alan's main goalkeeping page, give that a wee like. If you go on to the Lighthouse Podcast Studio page on Facebook, give that a wee like. And if you go on to the Football Journals page on Facebook and give that a wee like, and comment done underneath the post, and you will be entered into the draw.
What I'll do, mate, is I'll put pictures of all the Facebook pages and that as you're saying that in the episode.
Fantastic. That's spot on. That's what I've got you for, mate. Okay, Alan. This is my favourite part of the podcast.
Okay.
You're 1 to 11. 1 to 11s over the last few episodes have been, we've had lots of Ronaldinhos, we've had... This is all players you've played with or come across in your career, maybe played against. Is it players you've played with, or?
Yeah, I mean, every player there I've played with, for a club, or I've also played international or trained with.
Yep.
I mean, as far as most of them. So yeah, I think it's more personal that's the ones I've played with. I mean, there's probably one or two I've missed out there, but
there'll be a couple of names I'll ask you about players you've played with in your career after this.
Yeah.
But we'll start off with yourself, Alan Main.
Well, I'm picking the team, so I'm in.
Absolutely.
That was it. I know that I'm good. It was just the fact that I'm picking the team, so I'm in. No, I would have probably put Andy in. I would have put Andy Gore. I mean, I had a really close relationship with Andy. His books, The Goalie, Scotland's For Me, it's been signed by him to me. Ever had a close relationship with him. I actually went down when I was at Elgin, I think. I went down to a coaching thing and he was there. I got picked up by Craig Brown. He got picked up by Craig Brown. Alan Hodgkins was the goalkeeping coach. So I had an early encounter with Andy.
Yeah.
A couple of great stories. I was away international. It was a Friday night. I think we were playing. It could have been England. I'm not quite sure who we were playing against. There's a knock on the door at 10 o'clock. It's Andy. What size of gloves have you got? I said size 10. He said, well, have you got plenty? I said, I've got it here. It was a totally different manufacturer what he used, and so I gave him the gloves, and he went away and took the back off them, and he basically put his manufacturer on them because he didn't have gloves for the game the next day. I wish I had them gloves actually, but that was the type of relationship I had with him. I liked him. He was a good guy. Unfortunately, he's not here anymore, but great talent and what a goalkeeper.
Yeah, you're also, we kind of mentioned him earlier on, you were in the Scotland's set up at the same time as Jim Leighton, another hugely experienced goalkeeper in Scotland. My lasting memory of Jim is France '98 with the eyebrows and the Vaseline on the eyebrows. It's just kind of a lasting memory of Jim. But we also, with yourself, Andy, Jim, Brian Gunn, Johnny Gould, that's a for a nation that's maybe struggled for the last few years for a not decent goalkeepers, because we've got decent goalkeepers, but maybe a consistent goalkeeper.
Yeah,
we had an unbelievable amount of talent back in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean in the 90s, I worked with Jim and I worked with Andy and I worked with Brian Gunn. They were good. They were top end goalkeepers. There's no two ways about it. I mean, both of them went to Man United, later on in their careers, but they were outstanding goalkeepers. Now, Andy's no bigger than me, but he was a big presence. He was maybe Jim's slightly big. They were no big, but they were the club and country. They've been unbelievable ambassadors for us. So I think that we got a bit of a hard bit of stick there for no producing good goal. We had good goalkeepers at the time, and I think now we're Alan McGregor, Craig Gordon, that era as well. Now we've got another new crop. Angus Gunn's come through, with Brian's son, and you've got Xander Clark, you've got Liam Kelly, you've got Robbie McCrory. There is some talent there,
Agree.
So I think hopefully we're in good hands for the up and coming championships. So I do think there's 4 goalkeepers there. We'll probably take 3, maybe take 4, right enough. So I think we're in good stead for it.
Yeah. So I smiled because I absolutely love an ex-player, Maurice Malpass.
That's a mistake. It's Maurice Backpass. That's what he was called. That was before the back pass. Yeah, they used to call him. Every time he rolled to Maurice, you always got it back. But no. I was fortunate going to Dundee United. There was a lot of internationals, and Maurice was one of them. Really clever guy as well.
55 games for Scotland.
Yeah, 55 games for Scotland. I don't know how many appearances he's had, but he had a lot of appearances.
830 for Dundee United.
Wow, what a number, eh? So no, he was a good guy and a very
He's
good
only
player.
Second to one player. Can you tell me who that player is? Maurice is only second in appearances at Dundee United to one player. Can you tell me who the other player is?
I was going to say Hamish, but
no. David Neary.
David Neary, was it? Well, there you go. Big Sasha Distelin used to call him. Great player as well.
Maurice was also a Football Writers Player of the Year, and he captained Scotland. I've been finding out some amazing facts over the last couple of nights, and that. Another player, next player, I was actually speaking about him with somebody at work yesterday, because I kind of just ran through year 11. Callum Davidson, very underrated player. Yeah,
underrated player. Callum was coming through at an early stage, and they called him Sport Billy because I think his mum was a PE teacher. He was very good golfer, really good at tennis, average football. And Callum only spent a short period of time, but he did go down to Blackburn. Went to Blackburn, and he had a couple of other clubs. But I just felt he potentially could have been a very, very good player.
19 games for Scotland, played for Leicester as well.
And
then came back up the road afterwards.
Yeah, and just recently he was the manager of St Johnstone. So a good guy. He's done well for himself, and a really good fullback.
Yeah. David Neary.
David Neary, as we said, touched earlier on,
the goal against Brazil alone, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you played with David Neary, he was just so laid back, nothing fazed him, it was, and everyone was, he did everything easy. He was, as I say, just a laid back, nothing seemed to affect him, the build up to the game. in the game as well. He was, and I think he's a really nice person as well. So when you've likes a Mall Pass in front of you and Neri in front of you, you always know that you've got good defenders there, and good guys as well. That's what you need.
You're confident with them guys in front of you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Next guy I quite like, because he ended up in Elgin. I seen him a few seasons ago, was Marvin Andrews.
Yeah, big Marvin just got in there. I mean, I can remember as well, Marvin had came to Dundee United on trial, and I think he was at Wraith. Was he at Wraith? And then he came to Dundee United, but they didn't take him because he just couldn't pass the ball. But that's one of the reasons I've put him in there. I mean, I went to Livingston, and he was so aggressive in the air. Each box, his defensive box, and also the attacking area as well. He would go and win headers. He was aggressive, and he got better. He did become a better player. His first touch got better. He a wee bit better at passing the ball. So and he's made a great career for it. I mean, he ended up at Rangers, and he done really well for himself.
Well, I just kind of put here his Livingston form kind of got him his move to Rangers.
Yeah, definitely
done well. Over 100 games for Trinidad and Tobago, and I think he's quite high up in the government or something like that there just now.
I think so. Yeah, I mean,
he's a religious guy as well.
Yeah, he's very religious. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's a pastor or not, but he's quite a religious guy as well. Yeah.
Yep. Just kind of talking about like Marvin Andrews and players we've mentioned over the last couple of episodes have been players like Lorenzo Amoruso. We've mentioned John Hartson. We've mentioned Chris Sutton. How, as a goalkeeper, Alan, at 5'11", do you feel going up for a cross against like a Bobo Baldi?
I think it's just all about timing. It's all about timing and the flight of the ball, whether it's your ball or not. So I'm not really looking at who's in the box, or I'm just getting myself in a good position to go to deal with the cross, to be honest with you. So if it's coming into the box and it's my area, I'm just focusing on the ball. And hey, my size, probably I would get clattered, whereas somebody bigger, maybe they wouldn't challenge somebody that's slightly bigger. The likes of Rab Douglas, 6'3", 6'4", he's going to come out there, and they really want to challenge him, when it's his ball. But it's me, I think I'm a fair game to just go and have a go at. But no, I never ever focused on anybody else other than the flight of the ball and the ball, to be honest with you.
That makes sense. No, it does. Paul Sturrock.
Yeah, Luggy, aye. So he was a teammate of mine, and then he retired, and then he ended up going to St Johnstone, then he took me to St Johnstone. And he also, one of the reasons as well, I'll put Paul in there, he was one that actually became a coach, but seen that there was a gap with no goalkeeping coach. Yeah. So he would put stuff on for me. And it was just like a physical demanding session he would put on for me, based with diving and catching the ball and over markers, over hurdles and things like that. So plyometrics sort of thing. So he took the time. He seen there was a gap in it. So he took the time to sort of coach me. And then he left to go to St Johnstone, and then he took me to St Johnstone. So we had a good relationship. It was probably a better relationship than maybe most, because I played with him.
Yes,
I was like a teammate, and then he took me to St Johnstone, and I felt that he was really good for my career. Mm-hmm. How he dealt with me, how he was with me. He knew the type of person I was. He knew what he was getting. So I think he looked up at me, and I looked up at him as well.
Yeah, I've got just about 575 games for Dundee United and 171 goals, 20 games for Scotland, 3 goals. So it's good numbers.
And most untidy player you'll ever see. Socks down at his ankles, long hair, his top, everything. But no, he was an effective player. He was really, really quick, and he was one of them who would set up goals and he would score goals. Yeah, very good player.
Billy McKinlay.
Yeah, Billy McKinlay. So Billy gets in as well. He's a midfield player, and I thought he was a young. He was maybe a couple of years younger than me. Really good midfield player. Really aggressive. Passed the ball left, right, and then ended up going to Blackburn.
France '98 was my first World Cup, Alan. I remember, and I remember Billy McKinlay from France '98 and being a very strong player at the time. Yeah,
good. Called him Badger. Great character in the dressing room. Great ability, I thought. And I think he's currently coaching at West Ham as well now.
He is. He's Davy Moyes' assistant.
Yeah. Good lad.
Yeah.
Can I ask, Alan, who's the biggest character you've played with, and who's the biggest character you've coached?
Great question. I love that.
I would think Marvin Andrews, we've touched on him there, he was a character in the dressing room. He was, Trinidad and Tobago international, singing and dancing and, a religious guy.
Yeah.
And a big figure in the dressing room as well, a big guy. I think he was quite influential as well in the dressing room, and I think people looked up at him. Not just because his size, just how he carried himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely coaching, character-wise. I as I say, I had an opportunity to coach with Alan McGregor, and I thought he was. I found him he was really hard working, harder working than I thought.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought he was a big character as well. He was a big character when I was coaching him, but also in the dressing room as well. You could see that as well. He was a leader. He was one that was pushing things forward and wanting to win.
Yep.
And I do think every club should have winners in it. That's what it's about. You're competing against other teams. You want to win. But I do feel like the Rangers and Celtic, they expect to win every game.
Yes.
Whether it's table tennis and us Monday morning with each other, or whether it's heady tennis, whether it's a competitive game, in training, competitive match on a Saturday, everybody has to be a winner, because as soon as you lose your winners, you'll get beat. You'll get beat.
Yeah.
So I don't think over the last couple of seasons Rangers have always had the winners. I don't think some of the signing are real winners. They're coming from maybe different cultures or different attitudes. So yeah,
Plus
so I would say
managers a few times as well, right? Yeah, different styles, philosophies.
A few different styles and philosophies going into that club. Yeah, I think they've got a good appointment now, though.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but I mean, as far as Marvin Andrews, massive character and a likeable person as well, and Alan McGregor, same. I found him really approachable, and for everything he's done in the game, I thought he was really grounded.
Yeah,
and he worked so hard for it as well. And I think when you see people working hard for that, they deserve everything they get.
You did mention Big Duncan Ferguson earlier. Could I ask what he was like?
So Big Dunk was quite a young lad when I was there. He was just a character, what I mean? And I think the story, did somebody break into his house and he battered them? That was
two guys.
Two guys. Yeah. And I think his father was the same. I think he was from Stirling. And he was just a young kid when I was here, but you could tell he was going to be, he was going to be a decent player. And again, it'd be interesting to see how many appearances he's had, because I think with injury and things like that, and going to jail, maybe was it? No, I'm joking.
I don't have the.
Sorry,
I don't have the.
We have to remember he is in Inverness.
Yeah,
it's not too far.
Yeah,
Duncan's did brilliant for himself, and then you look at it.
It's meant to be a really nice guy. He seems a really nice guy as well.
Would he have been a coach when I'm thinking about him, what I know of him? No. But now he's turnn for a player into a coach can be hard for some people.
Yep.
And I didn't think he would become a coach. Raymond McKinnon at Forfar, I didn't think he would become a coach, but he's a really good coach.
He was assistant to Ancelotti at Everton, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's been at Everton a lot under a few managers. So now it's good that he's in Inverness, and I think they've picked up, and they're gradually getting out of that the bottom two anyway. They're in the bottom two maybe, but they're out that drop zone, I think.
I don't know if I was his players, I'd just be scared to lose. Just scared to lose.
Yeah.
Next one, I thought this was because I always remember him playing for St Johnstone. Jody Morris.
Yeah, so Jody came up. Derek McInnes had played with him at Millwall, I think. So Jody came up, and he was a great guy. He was such a nice guy, and what a player he was.
Yeah,
I mean, he's 5'4"-ish, maybe 5'5", but what an influence as well. He kept himself fit. He was brilliant. Left foot, right foot. He was coaching. He was just coaching on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
He was demanding. That's what I'm saying. He played at big clubs. He played at massive clubs, and a great character as well. So football ability's got him in there for sure, because he was a player.
Rio Ferdinand described him as, because he's John Terry's best friend, and he grew up around the Rio Ferdinand, Joe Cole kind of era, and he says he was the best kid in London for his age.
Yeah, he was. Well, he was saying to us he could have signed for Blackburn at a young age, and his mum and dad were getting a lot of money, and his dad was said, do it. He said, "No, I wanted to play for Chelsea." He's a real character. I thought he was a really, really good guy. Great guy.
He's also that was my last guy. Next one, bit of a throwback from the next one, Alan. Tommy Lomagrans.
Okay, so Tommy gets in because he was my best mate. His ability wasn't great, but no. So Tommy's Peter's brother. Came from Denmark. I was away on international duty, I think, and I came back, and he'd a trial game. He'd done quite well, and then he didn't play a lot, to be honest with you. And I think maybe it ended up he was a bit of fish out of water at times. He had real pace. He could run as fast as a motorbike, but maybe his final thing wasn't that great. But he was a really, really nice guy, and I just want to give him a mention because he was one of my best friends at St Johnstone. So yeah, I'm going to give him a game. Just maybe he'll get a half.
Okay, we've kind of mentioned Big Dunk, but I'm just going to elaborate. How's it going up for a cross for Big Dunk? I know you're concentrating on the ball, but that guy can head a ball. Yeah,
and I think as well, and I think the size of him, and I mean that would be, as I say, when we spoke earlier on, one of the goals we scored against Partick Thistle just lumped up the park, it bounced. Craig Nelson's coming one way and Dunk's going there, and he actually just headers the ball but flattens him as well, takes him out. And I mean, I'm sure I've seen a clip that Peter Schmeichel was looking a wee bit nervous when Big Dunk was, coming into the box, a header. So, formidable sort of character and a great, sort of unbelievable size. So, I mean, very dangerous player, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's absolutely fearless, really, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you need from a what they call these days an old-fashioned centre forward.
Centre forward,
fearless, kind of belt, can hold up the ball, head the ball.
Yeah.
It's going from today's game, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. There's not so many players like that, is there?
Like, you wouldn't... You look at who's the best strikers in the world these days, you get the name Harry Kane floated about. You wouldn't see Harry Kane doing these kind of things that Big Dunk was doing 20 years ago, 30 years ago. No, not at all. Ali McCoist.
Yeah, Ali McCoist. Yeah, I mean, one of the best strikers I've played against. But as I say, he was a bit of a figure for me as well because the background of it, being at Rangers and trial, and then going through playing at Dundee United, playing against him, and I'll never forget it, saving a penalty against him, down to my left at Ibrox. It's came away from me and I've got back up and he slid in and tried to kick me just because I saved it. It's no nice, is it? Yeah, we went on and won the game 2-1. Graham Souness was the manager at the time, so we had spoke about that. But no, I think he's a great guy. I think it's great he's on TV now. He's promoting being Scottish, and he's doing a great job. And I'd worked with him also when he was coaching at Rangers. And he did phone me up a couple of times and asked me to come back in to help him out as well. So I think generally great guy, great player, and he could score.
Oh yeah, he could score.
He could score.
So that's your kind of 11. On your bench, you've got Andy Gorham. We kind of spoke about him a bit about him before, but I'll always go back to he is the until today, he is the only other professional footballer I've kind of met, and really nice guy. Had a pint with him, and me being a Celtic fan, I've said he didn't have to give me the time of day, but he gave me the time of day. I don't think he really wanted to chat about football. We weren't chatting about football, but he gave me the time of day. He didn't have to do that, and it's just a sign of the guy. I watched him in his first game for Elgin. Wasn't a great result for Elgin, but Andy was at the tail end of his career by this point, and I think he was living locally at the time. Is he the greatest Scottish goalkeeper in the last maybe 40 years? I know he's technically not Scottish, but
yeah, I would have said that he was up there. I mean, he's definitely up there as one of the best goalkeepers. I mean, and even when you look at the club record and things like that, I mean, he seemed to play against Celtic himself at times. He was unbelievable. I've trained with him. I could see what he could do. It was just phenomenal for his size. He was stocky, my height, I would have said, but stocky, but phenomenal to do what he was doing. But it's so sad that he's away now. But I've got great memories of him.
Yeah, great. So the next one you're going to have to help me because I tried a few different pronunciations of this, Alan. So I'm going with Miodrag
Krivokapic. And I probably never spelt it right anyway. But so Miodrag was Red Star Belgrade. He came over and he signed for Dundee United in the 90s. I would say the 90s, and he was the nicest guy in the world. He was the fittest guy in the world. He was just a machine. Yeah. I can remember he used to come in, sit down, take his shoes off, take his socks off, then fold his socks and put them into his shoes, then take his shirt off and put it in a coat hanger, and fold his jeans, fold his boxer shorts, and then he was getting ready. He was immaculate, and what a player he was. He was centre back. He was unlucky not to get into the team, to be honest with you, and such a nice guy. He was so laid back, but great talent. I'm sure he must have played for Yugoslavia at once.
He did, yeah. I think I got 4 games for Yugoslavia.
But and he later on, I'd met him. I'm sure he was coaching at Celtic. I'm not sure if he is still. He was a youth coach at Celtic.
That's right.
I'd met him a couple of times, and he was so funny. You used to go into his. He got sponsored by a garage in Dundee, and it was a Yugo he had. From you, I don't know if you remember one, but it was a Yugo. It was just like a square box, and you used to go in, and the gear stick was like a foot high, and he always had biscuits. He was the best. You used to go before training, you get biscuits from your drag. But no, he was such a nice guy, and what a really good player, comfortable on the ball, good. We'd go and header it. It's strong, physically hard. Oh, a really, really good guy.
Fantastic. So John O'Neill, I had to do. There's 4 John O'Neills in Scottish football.
Oh, okay.
But we're on about Dundee United and St Johnstone.
Yeah, and
yes, and Hibs.
Yeah, it's John O'Neill. Yeah, he was wide right player, really good player. I think he played for Scotland as well. I'm sure,
he did,
John. Yeah,
yes.
And he had done. He was at. I think he was at one of these players at Dundee United. Like a lot of us, we were probably getting fed up with how maybe we were getting treated, and he probably never played as well. That's when the man management wasn't particularly good. I maybe think John would have needed that wee bit of support and help.
Yep.
But he ended up going to St Johnstone, did really well, going to Hibs and did very, very well, and ended up getting a cap for Scotland. So he's a really good, talented player. Like a lot of players at that time. Andy McLaren was a really good player.
Yes.
He's had difficulties in his life, but he was a really, really good player.
I heard that Andy McLaren was a bit of a character as well.
He was very much a character.
Yeah.
Not a particularly good upbringing. So I think Andy was unlucky as well not to get on there, but he was a really good player as well, and went down south and came back up the road. And I think I'm sure he's coaching now, doing something for. I'm not sure if it's for Disability Scotland or something, or underprivileged kids or something like that, but he's doing some sort of work with coaching as well.
Fantastic. Paul Hegarty.
Yeah, Mr. Honest, the most honest, straight guy you'll ever meet. Really dedicating what he was doing. Super, super fit. I played an international under 21 against England at the City Ground, and he was one of the older age players. He just talked me through it.
Yeah,
it was against England. We got beat 1-0. David White from Man City scored the goal. He talked me right through the game, and they had a great team at that time, and he was so good. Same again, he should have maybe been in the 11 as well, but really nice guy, really good player, played for Scotland as well. I'm sure he did
8 games for Scotland, and for a centre back he had 82 goals in 700 games. So it's 1 in 10.
I think he came to Dundee United from Hamilton, I think, and he was a striker. So it tended to, same as John Clark. John Clark, who, what a talented player he was, but he just had a few things going on that maybe too heavy. He was putting on too much weight. He wasn't focused on it, but what a player he was. And he started as a striker and just worked their way back to centre backs. Yeah. And the both of them weren't big and huge, but their timing in the air was very, very good. Yeah.
Another ex-Highland League guy, Hamish French.
Yeah, so Hamish kind of was at Dundee United when I was at Dundee United, so we sort of like got a good friend as well, partnership as well. So he's currently down at Dunfermline. I think he's coaching under 14s. I never actually bumped into him, but I mean, it's a pity because I would have had a good laugh. But so Hamish, he had to work on his game. Jim McLean was always in his back, and really worked hard for everything he got, and that's one of the reasons he's in part of the team as well, and a really good friend as well. Yeah. Striker, he would score goals and he could run all day with a smile on his face. He was always renowned for that. He would smile. It was the hardest run ever. He would just keep on smiling. So yeah, really good player.
Played for Keith as well.
Yeah, played for Keith. Yes, and I think we went Keith to Dundee United, and then I did Dundee United, Dunfermline.
I think you're right.
I can't remember if he went else, but I know he got all his coaching badges and he was coaching at Dunfermline.
Yeah. Okay, Alan, I'm going to do just my little thing for Spotify in a second. I've got a couple of quick questions. I didn't want to give you the last quibble because I just want you to give me the first thing that kind of comes to your head. It's nothing difficult. Nothing difficult.
I've got a question to end off on as well.
Yeah,
that's all right. Yeah,
absolutely. So, thank you. We absolutely smashed the 5-star review thing. Keep the 5-star reviews coming if we can, please. As I say, we're going to be doing a giveaway with this podcast releasing just before Christmas time. Get on Alan's page, check him out. If you know any budding goalkeepers who want to kind of get involved, you're not really going to learn it from anyone better local. Give us a wee like on Facebook. Check out the podcast studio on Facebook. We're all going in the same direction here. I think you know, if we can get a little boost for Alan's business, get a little boost for the podcast studio.
Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner. Everyone's a winner. And somebody will get some chocolates, a mug, and some signed gloves out of it as well. Okay, last couple of questions, Alan. I'll let you go first, Ryan.
So I just wanted to ask, like, you started your career in an era of where, okay, the Old Firm were still dominant, but there was teams challenging them, like Dundee United, Aberdeen, right, won the league a few times in the 80s. The last kind of team to do that was probably Hearts in that year that Gretna got to the final. And that was actually where there was an actual title charge from another team outside of the Old Firm. Do you think we'll ever see another era in Scottish football where that happens, or do you think the disparity is just too big for it to ever be closed?
I think the gap's probably just too big, and we are looking at like your Hearts and your Hibs to be sort of closing that gap, Aberdeen, and it just seems to be getting bigger, I think, you know, and I think it seems to be harder. It's getting harder.
It is.
You know, going to Parkhead and Ibrox, I think when you're going there, you really need to take advantage when they are low. You know, Rangers have the last few seasons, that was the opportunity there maybe to get in and split the two teams. But we couldn't even manage it when they were maybe going through a hard time, you know. So I mean, I think it's always going to be Rangers and Celtic, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be an Aberdeen, a Hibs, a Hearts. It's going to be finishing. They're the bigger sort of teams, and it's maybe the team like a St Johnstone's that maybe is the type of team sort of like fan base is no big. They might have a wee rush one season and finishing the third or fourth, and then it'll be Dundee's turn, then it'll be St Mirren's turn. It just seems to be got that sort of league, isn't it? So
it always seems where like even Kilmarnock, right, when someone has like a bit of a high season, it's followed up by like disaster the next. You know, Hearts and Hibs have both been relegated and stuff like that as well, haven't they?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, for me, I think it's always going to be Rangers, Celtic, Rangers.
Okay, Alan. Who's the best player you've played with, and just a general best player you've played with?
The best technical player I've probably played with is there's a couple there. Jody Morris, I'm going to go for. Okay. What a player! But I'm going to give a mention to somebody that could have been in that, is Mo Salah, who played for.
Wow.
It was Mohammed. He played for St Johnstone. What was his second name? Mo. I can't remember his name. He played for Celtic, and I should have had that on the top. It's no Mo Salah. It's Mo
Salah.
Mo Salah. Salah. Yeah, he was. What a talent he was when he played with St Johnstone. You know, I think one game he practically beat the whole team. I think it was against Rangers, and rolled it and we scored. It was like unbelievable. He was just like a. What a player he was, and he was but he was crazy. He just couldn't get him straight. But you know, I would say Jody technically for me, you could tell that he played at a great level.
Yeah.
He would take the ball in any circumstance. You know, he would keep the ball, he would pass it to, you know, and he would get back on it. He was never scared to not take the ball. He was always willing to take the ball. So technically, I would say Jody. You could just see he was, you know, and we had Mike Dewberry as well was in, and you could tell he played at
big guy.
Peter Davenport, the striker at Man United, played at St Johnstone. So. You could just tell they were just in their peak. They were better players than we ever had up here.
Best player you've played against?
Best player against would be. Would it be a goalie? Would it be? I can't say a goalie. I must say, this is kind of you'd mentioned him earlier on, and we spoke about him, and I think Henrik Larsson must be there.
Okay.
What a striker he was.
Yep.
He was. What a player. Moravchik, what a player he was. He actually scored against me directly for a corner, and then he went out with his left foot, and then he went out the other side and whipped another one. He nearly scored again for another corner. That was a bad day for me. But what a player he was as well. But Henrik Larsson, I would say, striker, scored at every walk of football internationally. Man United, Barcelona, Celtic, you know. What a player. What a player.
Okay, my last two. So I've always got one question. But because you're a goalkeeper, Alan, I'm going to change this. I'm going to two-part it. So we've got one penalty to save your life. Who takes the penalty?
Well, there's a story behind that as well, because I was at St Johnstone and I think we missed 7 penalties and I was up next.
Wow.
So we never got another penalty. Who would be taking a penalty for me?
Your whole career, if your life depended on it, it has to score. Who's taking that penalty?
Oh, wow, what a question that is. I would have to say myself.
Fantastic.
I didn't want to rely on him. Yeah, we always used to practice it, and there was a period of there that we were missing penalties. Things have changed now with penalties, with how they run up and everything, don't they? And the goalkeeper kind of step off his line and everything. But I would like to think I could probably take a successful penalty in my day with the pace that I had on the ball, and I probably, a lot of the time, I could probably put it where I would want to put it. We practice them. We used to practice it all the time.
Okay. One penalty save to save your life. Who's in goals?
Who's in goals? I would have to see myself again. I can't really
I
say,
love it. I love
can't
it.
really see myself. I mean, I was quite fortunate. I'd saved some penalty. There was a period I'd saved in the league. I'd saved quite a lot of penalties, and then when I'd played in the Gretna final against Hearts, I never got near any of them. Even in the way back out, I never got near them. And also there was another game as well. Penalties, I seem to struggle to get any penalties at one stage.
Did you used to look forward as a goalkeeper to a penalty shootout?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of fancied myself at it. I fancied myself that I could save one. But as I say, when it came down to it, I mean, a couple of situations, yeah, I never. But as I say, in playing for my team, I certainly had saved a few.
Did you have a technique for saving a penalty, Alan?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I thought a right footer was always going to my right because he was going to whip it away from me, or side footed to my left. I thought it was harder to it'd be easier for him to whip it away from me to get pace on the ball, so I couldn't save it, because I think when the ball's going away for you, your hand ends up going away for you as well, and it's sort of guiding into the net. But that's how I did it. So yeah, but I think penalties are different now. The way they run up now, they didn't even looking at the ball. They can just see it. They're looking at the goalkeeper, looking at the goalkeeper, waiting for the movement. And there's some of them are brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah.
Ivan Toney can do it. They can all do it, can't they?
Yeah.
It's so harder now to maybe save a penalty. Because in our day we probably just were going down and just we were practicing it, but certainly a lot of the time it was a lot of pace in the ball and trying to beat the goalkeeper with pace.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much for that today, Alan.
No problem at all.
I really enjoyed that. Give Alan's website a check out, maingoalkeepingdevelopment.co.uk.
Main goalkeeping.
Main Goalkeeping,
Yeah,
on Facebook, Instagram, and the website itself. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another football player.
Yep.
Semi-professional this time. Currently playing for Huntly in the Highland League. Okay.
Wrapping there, mate.
That's us, mate.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Lee.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. Before you go, please consider donating to Pamela Nicol Brown's cause for the Christmas fundraiser for Cash for Kids this year. Pam does this every year. She works relentlessly from the next day from Bonfire Night up until the 17th of December. There's multiple ways you can donate. On the screen at the moment, we have the bank account details where you can bank transfer the money directly to Pam. Pam handles all the money. She goes out, buys all the Christmas gifts that then get put to MFR for the distribution process to make sure every young person in the area wakes up to a Christmas present that may not get one otherwise. The other ways you can donate are through Grampian Property Centre. If you have a physical cash donation, put it in an envelope, send it to Grampian Property Centre. Same goes if you have a second-hand Christmas present in mint condition, or maybe you've bought someone the same thing twice or something this year and have a spare, drop it in a Grampian Property Centre. All of it goes a long way to making sure every young person in the area wakes up to a really nice surprise on Christmas morning, so it's well worth the donation. So help us out there and support Pam's cause this year. Thank you very much.